Rob wrote to me after that.
My last house took me 3 to 4 hours to do. I just didn't.
Great.
That's exactly what's happening.
Perfect. Well, thanks for your help.
I'm on the CJCC. So you're working with Christine?
No, I was going to move it over to the last, and I saw you have some.
Don't put me between two cans.
All right, when we get to
Oh, is that right? Okay. Because I was 17.
you
Let's
just
grab it on the right side. You know what? I am going to reserve.
okay.
Jeff for the planning
I
one.
don't do that often, but since I wasn't driving,
I'll tell you
Well,
what,
I guess I
how I would like
the
to
Jones.
That's what's going to
They're coming.
Not an apple.
I don't ever hardly do that, man.
And boards, you bring us.
So Gary,
How you doing, sir?
I'm fulfilling my campaign promise. I asked for healthier snacks.
Hey, John.
Is that, you got the you got Walter's proclamation, right?
Of course. Every year.
Yeah.
Jesse. Good. Yes, man.
What's John?
What's up, man?
I saw you on the bicycle. Oh, you did? That's right. That's at the parade, yeah. Very nice bike. How you doing?
What's up, man? I'm good. You been good?
Is there an official clock on there?
5 years.
This time, Bubba.
You have better attendance than I do. You have better attendance than me. Okay. Don't ask twice.
There we go. Oh, got it, for the employee of the month.
Uh-oh. You're in trouble.
You know, if it wasn't for the doghouse, I wouldn't have any real estate.
So Christine's having technical difficulties, so she asked us to wait just a
I grew up
minute.
with this older brother.
Barry?
Always.
I knew Barry real well.
Go through audio. And guess what?
Just
It worked
throw
right.
out one.
It
Oh,
worked
it
perfect.
did?
Christine, you want to know those houses?
I will.
Still. We have a minor technical difficulty, so we'll be just a second.
Yeah, but if you read it, it said, we tried to locate it.
How are you, Joe? I'm doing great. How about you? Doing fine, thank you. Got all your papers.
Make a motion.
I'll probably be scrambling at the microphone as usual.
I'm not going to drag somebody into the town. It ain't fair.
Yeah.
That's one motion.
Oh, well.
I know mine's live. Are we good?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We are good to go. Calling to order the Town Council meeting for Mount Pleasant Town Council for Tuesday, December 12th, 2017. It is the appointed time, place, and hour. We will first, we want to say how nice everybody looks in their festive clothes, but I do believe Councilman Jim Owens takes the Seasonal Fashion Award, and we want to thank you very much.
Y'all have any felt for your pool table?
Thank you for showing us how to celebrate the season. And with that in mind, we'll open with our prayer by Chaplain Rich Robinson, followed by the pledge, which will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Santos.
Let us pray. Almighty God of our community, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today, to focus on the work that you call each of us to, whether it be as a citizen or whether it be as a leader. God, you have called each of us with our unique skills and talents and gifts to pour into this community and create progress. You are a God of servants, and we thank you for our public servants, our police and fire, and we also thank you for all those who work in this community to make each person's life that much better. Now we ask for your wisdom, we ask for your peace, your direction, and especially your spirit to guide this great community. It's in your holy and precious name, the name of our great community servant, that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Face the flag.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is compliance with the Freedom of Information Act. Mr. Pagliarini, are we in compliance?
Yes, Mayor, we're in compliance.
Thank you very much. Very good to know. Approval of the agenda. Item number 4. Is there a motion that we approve the agenda as published?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The agenda is approved as published. Item number 5, public hearings, awards, and presentations.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff, would you lead us in the first public hearing, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a public hearing to receive input on a land use plan amendment to change the future land use plan map from back here to recreation and open space to low-density neighborhood. The property is just under 2 acres and is shown here in the Ravens Run subdivision. It's part of the common open space within the development, and it's the present location of an airplane hangar. The land use designation of recreation and open space reflects the uses that were originally approved within the subdivision under Charleston County. The Homeowners Association covenants were recently amended to allow residential use on this site, and the intent of the new owners is to construct a single-family home. Present county zoning is R4 single family, and most of the neighborhood has been annexed and similarly zoned R1. This plan amendment request has associated annexation and rezonings with it. Those items were deferred by the Planning Committee at the December 4th meeting, and they will return at the January subcommittee meeting. But you can still continue with the public hearing on this aspect, and then all 3 items would join together to return to you later.
Great, thank you.
Julie O'Connor has signed up.
Hello, I am Julie O'Connor, and I've been hired by the new owners of this property, Julio and Doreen Ronke, to design their new home for the property. As was mentioned, this is in the county at the moment and does have residential zoning. While this property was designated as an open space, it has always been privately held and privately owned. And the hangar that is currently on it is also privately owned. There is a runway that is also private for the residents of Ravens Run that abuts this, but we do not own that runway and cannot cross it or do anything with it, nor do we want to. On the other side of the runway is where actually airplanes are parked that are used within the neighborhood, and this hangar has not been used for that purpose. We do have a driveway currently already to the parcel, and that is the driveway that we will be using to access the home.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No others?
No other speakers, sir.
All right, item B.
Mr. Morrison.
I wonder what the Homeowners Association is.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Merry Christmas.
Good evening.
The second public hearing tonight is a public hearing to receive input regarding the widening of Park West Boulevard from 2 to 4 lanes. That will include enhanced bicycle and multi-use path, pedestrian facilities along the way. And that's approximately limits of the project from the Park West Bessemer roundabout up to the town's recreation facility entrance. And this is related to the public information meeting that we had on October 26th.
Kevin Cunane.
I just come up to speak in support of widening Park West Boulevard. It came up in 2015. There was a meeting held up in Park West, and there was a town employee that said, oh, there's a lot of people against that. But tonight when I went to sign in, I was the only person speaking. Most of the people who live up there are probably stuck in traffic and not able to come down here. But it's definitely long overdue to get that widened, so please vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else signed up. Anyone else from the public to address this issue for this public hearing? None? If not, this public hearing is closed.
Okay, Mayor and Council, will you please join me out front?
Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the Cresco Award. To help us with that is Chris Luley, Senior Planner in our Planning Department. He will introduce the members of the Historical Commission. Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. Like Eric said, my name is Chris Luley with the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Department. I'm a senior planner, and one of my roles is to staff the Historical Commission. We do have 3 members here tonight. Rick Gutowski here is our chairman. We also have Bob McDonald and Heidi Schless. And I think now I'll introduce Rick, who would like to say a few words about the award.
This is our second time we've done the Cresco Award, and it honors people and organizations within Mount Pleasant that make a significant contribution to our community on a historical basis. And over here is Mary Julia Royal, who won last year, and we honor her for coming out tonight with us. And let's see, then I guess the next step is the award.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. If you'll stand up here with me, sir, that would be great. Chris, you too as well. And I will go ahead and read the proclamation that Mayor Haney will present to Mr. Brown here momentarily. But for the record, proclamation, whereas the appreciation and preservation of a town's cultural and physical heritage are characteristic of dynamic communities. And whereas the Mount Pleasant Historical Commission is charged with promoting the understanding and appreciation of the town's physical and cultural heritage. And whereas the Mount Pleasant Historical Commission fulfills its charge through its roadside marker program, oral history projects in collaboration with the College of Charleston, publishing historical Quick Fact Friday excerpts, developing and maintaining the town's official map locating the town's historical and cultural sites, and presenting a series of activities for Black History Month. And whereas the Mount Pleasant Historical Commission has created the Cresco Historical Stewardship Award, recognizing an individual, organization, or group that has done exemplary work in studying, preserving, restoring, or promoting the history of Mount Pleasant. And whereas Walter G. Brown, Jr. was a former member of the town's Historical Commission and has remained a dedicated advisor to this group, is perhaps the foremost contributor to the town's Black History Month celebrations, was a former chairman and member of the board of directors for Avery Institute of African American History and Culture, was a past president and member of the Benevolent Brotherhood Society of Mount Pleasant, working to preserve and continue the legacy of African American men in the Old Village. Held the position of Friendship African Methodist Episcopal Church's secretary from 1965 to 2000. It's 35 years. Passing historical knowledge to the congregation. And whereas Walter G. Brown's contributions exemplify the purpose of the Mount Pleasant Cresco Historical Stewardship Award, now therefore I, Mayor Haney, Mayor of the Town of Mount Pleasant, on behalf of the Mount Pleasant Historical Commission, am honored to present on December 12, 2017, the annual Cresco Historical Stewardship Award to Walter G. Brown, Jr.
You can open it up to box. The wood box it actually opens up. Okay.
That's where it came from. Oh boy.
The Cresco board is.
Yeah, it's on there.
It's in there.
There's a lock on.
Maybe you need a key to the city to open it.
All right. Very nice. Well,
there you go.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Walter, would you like to say anything?
Thank you.
I would like to thank the Mount Pleasant Historical Commission and the mayor and town council. I came to this town 53 years ago when I married my lovely wife. And when I came to Mount Pleasant, what we now call Johnny Dodds Boulevard was the Scott's Brothers Farm. So a lot has happened. And I was telling Heidi, all of the functions of the town occurred on Royal Avenue, on what is now the James B. Edwards Park. The fire department, the police department, and the mayor's office, all was housed there. I am proud to be a member of this community, and at this time I would like to introduce my family, beginning with the person that makes me go, my lovely wife, Lois B. Brown. My son, Walter G. Brown III. My daughter, and we are so much alike, Deidre Lachey Gregg. And Daddy's baby, Robin Danielle Mickens. And her husband are about to have another little Mickens. I have in the audience my pastor. Will you please stand? The Reverend, what is your name? Reverend Alonzo Reddick III. He hails from Arkansas, and he has been a blessing to us. I also have my cousin here, Ed Lee. It's Ed Lee. His son-in-law, Jesse Mickens. There with the headset. And my grandson, Grayson Gregg. Thank you so much.
We had a Coleman Boulevard holiday window decorating contest this year, and here to announce the winner is our Amy Livingston.
So I'm so excited today to come and present the winner of our inaugural Coleman Boulevard window decorating contest. We've long looked for ways to engage our business community in our holiday festivities, whether through our Christmas parade or our holiday market, and now we've got windows. So all the businesses along Coleman Boulevard were invited to participate, and this year's theme for the contest was the Low Country Christmas. We're excited to say that the album received over 20,000 impressions and visitors, but there was one that stood out, and that was Bar South. They achieved
time to deck the halls in here.
Likes. Well,
the only place to go for
and even a commercial.
Is Cabela's Christmas.
And their sense of community and holiday cheer led them to victory over. I mean, I saw posts on their Facebook and their Instagram calling out their likes. And I'd like to introduce to you all Brett Donovan. She's the owner and an instructor of Bar South. She actually had to get someone to cover her class tonight. As you know, small businesses, you got to step up and do everything. So Bar South is one of our town proud locally certified businesses here in Mount Pleasant. They call Coleman Boulevard home. It doesn't take long to see that in the short time Bar South has been around, if you'll remember we did the ribbon cutting not too long ago, that they've built a solid core, pardon the pun, of loyal Mount Pleasant followers. We wish them a Merry Christmas and much success.
So much. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Private First Class Cardenas, you come forward, please? And would your family come as well? Mayor, council members, and ladies and gentlemen, about 2 months ago, about mid-November, there was a water main break on McGrath Darby Boulevard, across from the Spring Hill Suites. And Mount Pleasant Water Works arrived on scene to begin repairs. Officer Cardenas was in the area and provided traffic control and safety to make sure that the workers who were performing this important repair were able to do so in safety. And one of the repairmen was using a power saw cutting through a water main. And the saw returned and hit the individual in the arm, and creating a very serious wound in his upper arm, and it threatened his life, in fact. And so there was sort of a chaos of the moment. Fortunately for the individual, Officer Cardenas was there, kept calm, acted quickly, calmed the situation, immediately retrieved from his cruiser a department-provided tourniquet, of which he applied to the individual until EMS could arrive. And his quick actions, his coolness under pressure, saved, well, what potentially could have been a loss of life with the Mount Pleasant Water Works employee. And for his actions and for how well he reflected himself, the town of Mount Pleasant and the Mount Pleasant Police Department, he is our Employee of the Month.
Thank you.
It's all him.
I wish you would have kicked the family out.
Good job.
I have a pen. Got one? Thank you. And while everyone exits, this brings us to item number 6 on our agenda, approval of the minutes from the November 14th, 2017 Town Council meeting and the November 2017 financial statement.
So move.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes and the financial statements signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. The minutes and the financial statements are approved. Item number 7, correspondence and public statements. Mr. DeMoore, do we have?
Thank you very much. I have 2 individuals signed up. The first is George Freeman.
George Freeman, 1450 Bowman Road. Good evening. I just like, nope, she brought it up too soon. I'm only here at this time to speak about Billy Swales Boulevard and the Sweetgrass Basket Overlay District. Right now, Billy Swales only goes from Hamlin Road to Portia Bluff. Pretty soon, it will go from 6 Mile Road to Portia Bluff. In the past 4 or 5 years, whenever development occurred in this area, the community and the Cage organization have worked to make sure that these subdivisions have at least 2 connections, and one of them would be to Billy Swales Boulevard. It's a subdivision that's going to be built right behind the new Home Depot. It'll be connected to 6 Mile Road and to Billy Swales when it's built. Further down, off of Old Georgetown Road, there's a development that's just, I'd just like to pass that on to the new members and to refresh the members of the old members. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Barry Wolf.
Barry Wolf, 1468 Pocahontas. Tonight on the agenda is basically a reevaluation of the CRAB, if I understand it correctly. The issue of raised medians on Coleman Boulevard and on-street parking on Coleman Boulevard really need to be revisited. If you've over the time you've seen the effect that the raised medians and the on-street parking has had in front of the boulevard, which creates a tremendous amount of U-turns and a tremendous amount of traffic congestion when people are trying to parallel park in a society where we really don't parallel park a whole heck of a lot anymore. I think that we need to understand that businesses will suffer from the medians. The neighborhoods abutting Coleman Boulevard will suffer from the medians because people will have to go into neighborhoods to make proper turns to get to businesses. I don't think we had the strength of council to revisit this in the past. I hope we have the strength of council to revisit it now and really understand what we're creating. Visions are good, but visions sometimes are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
That's all I have, sir.
That's all we have for item number 7, correspondence and public statements. Ma'am?
I didn't sign up. Could I say something?
I believe so.
Pat Sullivan, 1002 Plantation Court. On the subject of Coleman Boulevard, I would think that one of council's #1 concerns would be the safety of its citizens. And if you look at things that were said the last time Coleman Boulevard and the medians were brought up, the 3 members of our staff told us, and I confirmed this, that collision rates decrease between 25 and 50% with a median. Also, pedestrian collisions decrease by 50%. And research shows that up to 30% capacity increases. For people who are unhappy with Coleman Boulevard now, it's totally understandable because they're under construction. But back to my first point, I hope that you all take our citizens' safety in consideration over some people who are not happy with how fast they can get down Coleman Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I believe we have one more. Mr. Kinane.
Kevin Kinane, 3032 River Vista Way. I wasn't going to speak on this, but on the safety aspect, there is an aspect of safety that's very important here. I heard Councilmember O'Rourke say at one of the committees last week, when there's a safety issue, that's the most important thing. When there's a safety issue, that's our most important responsibility. That was Councilman O'Rourke, and he's right. You know, raised medians, when you have an emergency response, you send people from both directions. You send, if you like, for example, for a fire, a ladder and an engine, both from both directions. Why? Because you're not gonna be able to get through. You're not really able to work over that median with a ladder. You can't position the ladder right when you're coming from the wrong direction. So you send a double response. We don't have a double response in town available for that. So we're asking for an urban solution when we don't have the urban infrastructure to make that happen. So that's something that really needs to be considered. If you don't have the ability to send a double response, then it's irresponsible to exacerbate that problem by extending the median. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinane. One more. Yes, ma'am, if you would like to speak.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Katie Zimmerman, 45 Sycamore Avenue, Charleston, South Carolina. I am the executive director of Charleston Moves, which is our Charleston County's nonprofit advocacy group focused on safer streets and connecting communities. I would love to help you all study this issue and come up with the right solution based on what we know now with, you know, obviously Population has exploded in Mount Pleasant. A lot of people are driving. A lot of people want to have other options of how to get around, how to be connected to different areas. And I would love to assist if I can offer that, if I can be useful, helping come up with a way to solve this issue, revitalizing Coleman Boulevard, protecting citizen safety, and also kind of helping address the things that are missing, as Mr. Kinane pointed out, so that this is a solid plan going forward. I remember years ago in the late 90s when we were discussing how to address Coleman Boulevard, and the prevailing sentiment in Mount Pleasant was, right now people are using Mount Pleasant as a conduit to get to other places because they can zoom right through the town. And that was a very significant point of discussion where y'all wanted to come up with a way to make Mount Pleasant a place to be and a community. So I want to make sure we keep whatever happens with Coleman as a place where people want to be. And it's very important when you have wider medians that are planted, that's a place for pedestrian refuge. It provides a way to slow traffic down in a good way. You want traffic congestion. That means you're a thriving community and people are safe on the roads. And you also have the opportunity with on-street parking to slow down traffic in a good way as well. So I really urge you not to throw out the baby with the bathwater on this one, and let's really come up with a solid solution so that people are safe, everybody can be a little bit happier. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. There being no more signed up and no more people wishing to speak, yeah, don't forget your, thank you. That moves us to item number 8 on the agenda, planning with Mrs. Farrell and Mr. Alma, please, if you will lead us through these agenda items.
This first item is an ordinance and a request to rezone property from R1, low-density residential, to CC, Community Conservation District, and it's about 1.5 acres on the south side of 7th Avenue. It is designated low-density residential on the future land use map in our adopted comprehensive plan, and this request is not consistent with that land use plan designation. This property presently has 2 mobile homes on it, and such use is not allowed in the R1 district. And the request is to apply CC, Community Conservation Zoning, which would allow the mobile homes and would also permit a small grouping of up to 3 mobile homes on one parcel, provided there's sufficient space for each and they can meet the dimensional standards of the town zoning ordinance.
I'll move to deny.
We have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, the Planning Commission recommended denial. The Planning Committee looked at it as well, and we, and I believe it was unanimous, recommend denial. And the neighbors who came in to speak requested denial. So it doesn't appear that there's anything here really to keep it from being denied.
Thank you, Mr. Bustos. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion to deny and a second. All in favor of the motion to deny, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? The ayes have it. The motion is denied. Next on the agenda, please.
Next is an amendment to the Oakland Plantation Planned Development District Ordinance to provide for the installation of a multi-use path along Highway 17 in a natural roadside buffer area. This would permit a 10-foot trail, which is part of a larger trail system, a regional trail system for this part of the community. The path is proposed to be located within the Waterworks utility easement where that easement exists, and the trail would be located outside of that where there wouldn't be the easement. Of note on this particular request, our zoning ordinance buffer provisions require that trees that are 3 inches in diameter be protected, and the applicant initially proposed protecting trees of 6-inch diameter and greater, along with installation of supplemental plantings rather than replacement plantings and mitigating for the tree removal. Staff expressed concerns about that, and if it were approved, and the Planning Commission recommended approval but agreed with those comments that that issue should be addressed. At the December 4th Planning Committee meeting, the applicant stated that they would instead mitigate 1-to-1 for the removal of any trees between 3 inches and 8 inches in diameter, and the Planning Committee recommended to Council approval with that amended zoning stipulation.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion among council? Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor. Michael Kane.
Mayor and council, Michael Kane, 501 Wanda Park Boulevard. Just wanted to say I'm with Seaman Whiteside, and we're working with the East Cooper Land Trust. We're excited about this trail amenity in the town, and if you have any questions, I'm here. So thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, again, didn't notice was public comment on this. Just, it's a great idea to have this trail. When it goes past Lowe's, having no buffer there, it's become known as the Lowe's Penitentiary. If you look at it, they have like a 30-foot high fence there. Really, it looks like a prison. If there's any way we could work in some kind of better buffer in that area to make it not look like you're looking at a prison, it would be very helpful. So thank you for your consideration on that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, just
yes,
for clarity's sake, the motion is including approval with the Planning Commission the Planning Committee recommendations. That's correct?
That's correct.
Yes. That is with the changes allowing removal of 3 to 8 inch trees with a 1-to-1 mitigation. Yes, that is. Am I correct, Mr. Bustos? That's correct. That's the motion in the second. Any further discussion? All right, the motion is to approve, so all in favor of that approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion passes unanimously.
First reading, ordinance number 17062, an ordinance providing for an amendment to the Oakland Plantation PD Plan Development District Ordinance number 04104 and subsequent amendments pertaining to an approximately 0.6 acre tract of land located adjacent to Highway 17 North across from George Browder Boulevard, identified by portions of TMS numbers 60000000074 and 60000000067, providing for the installation of a multi-use path and the natural roadside buffer.
Yep. Next would be item 3.
This is a request for annexation of a 1 acre tract of land located on Jack Leland Drive. It is designated low-density neighborhood development on our land use plan, and the owner intends to build a single-family home on this property. Due to zoning ordinance requirements related to marsh areas, part of this property on the southern end would be zoned CO, Conservation Open Space, and the portion of the property adjacent to the road, fronting on the road, would be zoned R1. The petitioner provided correspondence to you, Council, earlier this afternoon indicating that he would not be in attendance tonight, and the Planning Committee recommended approval of this annexation request.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? Anyone here to speak to this issue? There being none, we will put it to the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? The motion is approved.
First reading, ordinance number 17063, an ordinance providing for the annexation of an approximately 1 acre tract of land located on Jack Leland Drive, Stratton Place, identified by TMS number 61400000006, and depicted on the plat recorded by the Charleston County RMC office in Plat Book J, page 100.
This moves us to item number 4, please.
This is consideration of a request from the Patriots Point Development Authority to waive the 1-year, 12-month waiting period to submit a modified rezoning application. The authority requests that for property related to the National Medal of Honor Museum. An earlier rezoning request was being processed but was withdrawn, and the ordinance requires applicants to return to council to receive a waiver if they want to proceed before that 1-year waiting period expires. The applicant provided a letter of support and will be modifying the boundary of the next rezoning request if it's approved, if council approves the waiver submittal.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second, and in the way of discussion, as your representative to the Patriots Point Development, authority. This is basically an administrative thing because when it was first applied for, the lease between Patriots Point and the Medal of Honor Museum had not been executed, so they really did not have the right to apply for that. This is not any smoke and mirrors or anything, and I would ask my fellow council members to vote in support of this waiver. Any other discussion from council? Anyone here to address the issue from the public? All right, we will call the question. All in favor of granting this waiver on item number 4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed by no? The ayes have it. The waiver is granted.
Yes, sir. It's no reading, sir.
You don't have to read that. No. Okay. All right, that moves us to B, item B, old business.
These two items I'll present together. One is an annexation and the other is a zoning request for the existing Royal Palms townhome development, which was developed under Charleston County zoning. It consists of 72 lots and homeowner association parcels and is served by a private street which comes off the end of Dingle Road. In terms of annexation, the property owners have met the statutory requirements as spelled out in state law, and the Planning Committee recommended approval of the annexation request.
Move for final reading.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah. Is that for both items or for the first item, sir?
The first item.
For the first item. So this is for item number 1. Your second was for item number 1. All right. Discussion. Mr. Santos.
Yeah, you know, last time we were here, last month, I made my intentions clear what I thought about the 75% method. This is the 75% method, right?
Correct.
Okay, I think in the future we ought to have that on here so the public knows that this isn't a 100% annexation, it's a 75%. Can you explain real quick what the 75% method of annexation is?
The requirement would spells out for property owners that percentage of at least that percentage of property owners to request the annexation petition, but doesn't require the full 100%. And I believe we achieved close to 80%.
So in other words, 75% of those townhome owners can take the other 25% into the town even without their permission.
Yes.
See, I have an issue with that. They were going to check and see with the owners. They were going to see if they could find those owners. In the last meeting, I asked to go back and see if they could find them. Do you know if they have?
No, I don't believe.
Is there anybody here from the Homeowners Association?
I think some representatives may be here.
Okay, we have some folks here. I'd just like to hear and see if they did do the search to make sure that those folks were notified. Nobody has contacted me. Nobody has said anything, and I was very clear last time that I wanted to know what the situation was. So, Mr. Mayor, we'll do whatever if you want to have some people come up and talk about it.
We will get to that in the comments after council members are through with their comments. Are you finished, Mr. Santos?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. O'Rourke.
We had Mr. Freeman last month, and I believe Mr. Jefferson was with him, and then Mr. Freeman again today, just discussing the opportunity to have different exits and entrances from there.
Yes.
I know that logistically it won't work with the ponds and some of the land that we don't own, but I believe there is a parcel close to 17 that would allow for, when Hungry Neck is finished, to actually get through that property. I don't know. Can somebody address that for me and help me feel good about that a little bit?
Mr. Bustos?
Yeah, this came to the Planning Committee, and there were two things that the folks who came to the Planning Committee wanted to have addressed. One is that they are built out, and they are indeed built out, so no more building can be done. If you look at the diagram that's on your screen right now, you see one little area stubbed out to a neighborhood to the to what would be the southwest. Yes. And the other thing I believe that folks wanted to hear on the record was that there would be no more building, and that the intention was that they would connect to that neighborhood, and that is what was done, and that's why it was sent back to the Planning Committee this month. We looked at that, and we decided, I believe it was unanimously, to recommend to full council the final reading because those things are understood that there can be no further building and that it is going to be connected to the, and I don't know what neighborhood that is right there, but you know, they're going to be built out as well.
Are you referring
right there?
here?
Thank
I believe that's Crystal Road.
Right there.
And when this was approved under the county, there were provisions made for potential street connections, although they were not effectuated through the, through the plats. So when the subdivision plats were recorded, and there may be intervening property in there, making the actual physical connection will have to cross other properties, if you will, that aren't necessarily part of this particular development. And then you would have also connections to what is a private street within the neighborhood itself. Okay. So some of that could be difficult to achieve, but it's understood that folks are concerned and interested in with trying to make connections between and among neighborhoods.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bremer.
Yes, I know when Mr. Freeman was here before, he